Katie Taylor is back in Ireland for revenge this weekend against Chantel Cameron.
And with the undisputed super lightweight titles on the line, it's set to be one of the most anticipated fights of 2023.
Well, our next guest has labelled Katie's upcoming rematch as the most important moment of her career. It's, of course, iconic sports promoter Eddie Hearn. Good to see you, Eddie.
Good morning.
Thanks
for coming in.
Us today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
No, we're delighted to have you on. This is an odd position for Katie to be in. Last May, she got to come home, she got to fight, but she lost. And now the rematch is on, and she's the underdog.
She is a very different position for her. I mean, last May it was all about, the homecoming, her first ever fight in Ireland. She was run ragged with media obligations and, you saw her at schools and I think it took a lot out of her. Chantel Cameron was brilliant that night, but this week, a very different approach. Almost like a no media, no nonsense, just get me in, get me out, I'm going to sleep. And, there's a look in her eye that tells me something very different this time. She's the most scariest person I've ever met, by the way. I mean, one of the most pleasant, women I've ever met, and she's just an amazing character. But when she's stubborn, she's driven. And, for the first time, an underdog in this fight, a lot of the boxing community struggle to see a way she wins. But in her mind, in the team's mind, and of course in the mind of the country, very different. It would be the biggest victory of her career so far.
OK, it's going to be a tough victory. Katie's, she's the wrong side of 30, as some of those boxing commentators and experts might say. Chantel Cameron is also very, very confident.
Yeah, I think that I keep saying Katie Taylor will be better this time. I think she'll be fantastic. But Chantel Cameron, full of confidence. I mean, in her mind, she walks through Katie Taylor on Saturday night. A lot of the fights that you see Katie in, she starts very well, very sharp. She wins that first half of the fight and then gets dragged into a war after. The last fight, Chantel Cameron came out in the first round and just, set that pace, and Katie was run ragged in the early rounds. But this fight, from the first bell, will just catch fire, and this is the third successive sellout of Katie Taylor's career with Madison Square Garden, 3 Arena. The atmosphere will be on another level because last time she was expected to win.
Yeah.
This time she's the underdog. And you guys, you like to get behind the underdog. And
of course
I think you've set an incredible atmosphere tomorrow.
You spoke about Madison Square Garden there. I mean, what was it like? Did you know that she had the star power to fill that? Because that was a seminal moment for female sport, I think.
Yeah, I mean, when you walk around New York now, people still talk about that night. The owners of Madison Square Garden says the greatest fight in the history of our venue. Talking about a venue that's held, Ali, Frazier and some of the great nights. And look, when Katie Taylor come into my office for the first time, I met her out of respect. I didn't think women's boxing was really going to go to the levels that it has, but she just, she convinced me to follow her dream and her passion for breaking down barriers. And, I said, as I would, spinning it, one day we'll sell out Madison Square Garden in New York. And of course, we got there. She got there. She's been incredible. But I think she'd give all of that up for victory tomorrow night. Because it's when we left the 3 Arena back in May, I remember sort of saying goodbye to her and I looked her in the eye, I thought, it's going to be painful for you. She's a pure winner. And every day since that defeat, she would have been sleeping, and dreaming about victory against Chantel Cameron. So for everything she's done, for, paving the way for females in the sport, of course, for making sure that the IOC had women's boxing in the Olympics. I mean, she's done everything. And Madison Square Garden, everything.
She's I'm not writing her off, not for a second, but there's already a massive legacy there.
Oh, the legacy will never be taken away.
The best fighter this country has ever produced.
Yes, and one of the greatest athletes. I mean, you should be so proud. And in a world where everybody's life is under a microscope and everything someone says is overanalyzed, have you ever heard anyone say a bad word about Katie Taylor? I mean, we was at the shopping centre the other day for the workouts. There was generations of families there, 4- or 5-year-olds, grandparents, all together because she's been iconic. And as much as the legacy will remain, it really means very little tomorrow night. It's just about high-level sport and who is going to be the best on the night. But one thing she will give every inch of her soul on Saturday night for victory, as she always does.
Boxing has changed quite a lot over the years. I mean, if you look at the sport in general, before, like promoters such as yourself, unless you think of Don King, he was a very flamboyant character, but you've kind of been pulled into that whole world yourself when you're kind of whipping up the frenzy for these fights. How do you feel about that being kind of front and centre? Yeah,
I mean, I guess I'm the showman of the presenter of the show, if you like, and it's my job to go out and convince people to watch, to build and sell the narrative and to get you engaged in the product, which happens in the ring. And, we live in a world of social media now, which has changed, the way that the sport is promoted. But still, I'm quite old school in my love for the sport, and that's why I think Katie Taylor is so amazing and very passionate about what the sport does for the next generation. I mean, I was at Crumlin Boxing Club the other night. Unbelievable scenes. Hundreds of kids down there, off the streets, away from trouble, trying to live positive lives, being taught by these amazing coaches within the community who are teaching discipline, respect, manners, all things that I think are evading the younger generation now. So we're very passionate about the sport. We understand the circus that goes with it. But like I said, there's nothing like a big fight night. And tomorrow night we have one.
OK, but there's a lot of girls in the gym as well.
Incredible in there.
And that's down to Katie as well.
Oh, I mean, I would say there was probably 100 kids in Crumlin. I would say there was 20 or 30 girls in there, which is incredible to see. And I made the mistake of going over and asking them who their favourite fighter was. And it was Katie.
Well, we've a few female boxers now that are absolutely amazing now as well.
Yeah, we've got Kelly as well. We've a lot of boxers.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at the amateur system, of course, Kelly Harrington, Amy Broadhurst, great amateurs, but now around the world, some iconic role models that have come from Katie's progression. And there were those before Katie Taylor, but for me, she's the one that's broken down the doors from a grassroots level. Don't forget this is a young girl who used to have to wear a head guard on walking through the gym of Bray Boxing Club to convince people she was a boy because girls were banned from boxing.
Yeah,
but as a role model, she's absolutely amazing. I mean, she's a very strong faith as well. She's kind of defined by that as well. And we mentioned in the sport and boxing, there's been ups and downs over the years. Associations have been questionable in some instances. But when it comes to the fight tomorrow night, I mean, you've seen what's going on in Dublin over the last 24 hours around the area where the fight is. There's going to be an increased guarded presence. Are you concerned about the security at the venue?
I mean, look, we will follow, obviously, the developments like you do, and we'll take instructions. Look, for me, I think this is an opportunity for positivity, not just, for the sport of boxing, but in this country as well. You're talking about one of your greatest ever role models, an iconic figure of sport. This is a celebration of boxing. This is a celebration of Irish sport as well. So, as always, we follow the situations. We don't feel like it'll affect the event tomorrow night. And we hope that we can go ahead, positively with a great event for Irish sport.
In the last match that Katie Taylor was involved in, though, Conor McGregor kind of put himself front and centre. If we saw, I know he was sponsoring the event, but are we going to see that again on Saturday?
I don't believe so, no,
because
I don't.
He's been quite incendiary in his social media activity over the last 24 hours, and you've seen, no one likes to see what's happened, but I mean, his tweets last night were, Ireland, we are at war. Do not let any Irish property be taken over unannounced. He's slammed the government. He said last night, you reap what you sow. I mean, are you concerned at all that his rhetoric, which has been widely criticised by a lot of people, both in mainstream media and on social media, are you concerned at all about if he gets involved in a way?
No, I don't believe he's attending the event. I mean, I don't speak on his behalf.
Yeah.
He's obviously someone that has his own views, as everybody does. But, for us,
So he won't.
I don't believe so.
Yeah,
no,
okay.
no. But for us, we just focus on the event. Obviously, we come to Dublin with the aim to grow the sport in this country, to continue the great work that Katie Taylor has done.
And a
for
positive
sport.
spin.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it is a celebration for Irish sport. I mean, you've got a number of Irish fighters on the card who are all living their dream of fighting in front of a sold-out arena. You've got young Gary Cully, who got beat on the same card last time in the fight of his career as well. And
Thomas Carty's
for Katie Taylor, and by the way, the atmosphere last time was the best atmosphere I've witnessed at a fight in probably being at boxing for nearly 40 years. And we expect a better atmosphere tomorrow. So moving forward with positivity and with hope, and I know that all of Ireland's fingers will be crossed for Katie Taylor tomorrow night.
And soon maybe fill out Croke Park?
Well, got to win tomorrow first.
Got to win tomorrow first, yeah. Anyway, yeah, you're right. Prayers are being said, fingers, eyes, legs, everything are being crossed in the hope that Katie can get that win tomorrow and maybe make it a trilogy. We'll wait and see. Eddie, thanks for taking the time.
Everything crossed already. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right, don't forget, Katie Taylor's showdown against Chantal Cameron is being streamed exclusively on DAZN.